Hi, this is Prakash and welcome back to our podcast, The Researchers Roundtable. I am thrilled to introduce our guest for this episode, Dr. Adil Khan from University of Western Australia. Came into mind, I should go for the science.
Okay, that's a very good question.
This episode promises to be both informative and inspiring.
I personally believe, everything happens for a reason.
Hi, Adil.
Hi, Prakash. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you.
Adil, tell me about yourself.
As my name is Adil, I'm originally from Pakistan, and back in 2012, I moved to Australia for my master's in biotechnology, and then I joined University of Western Australia for my PhD in synthetic biology. And after completing my PhD, since then, I'm doing my postdoc in the same field.
Okay. So it looks like you started your science career beginning of the master's. So any idea how this inspiration came into mind? I should go for the science.
Okay, that's a very good question. So during undergrad, whenever I used to study about my courses, some of the professors, they used to tell us about how the research environment is outside Pakistan. So at that time, I got inspired and I thought I should give it a go. But in the beginning, it was not as easy I thought it would be. But I started my journey, and then they say, whenever you try, so you can get to your goals, you can achieve your goals.
So you did your master in Pakistan?
No, I did my master's in Australia.
Australia.
Yeah.
And what is the journey between a master to PhD then?
So during when I was doing my master's at that time, the project was more focused on the cloning side. And then at that time, back in 2014, there was a little bit boom of synthetic biology. So that got me inspired. And one of the professors, my boss currently, Professor Ryan Lester, so I was in communication with him. He suggested this could be an area of interest in the future. So maybe we should go into this direction, which I accepted. At that time, I had no idea, how easy the journey would be. But if I take a look into that time, so I'm quite happy now. So that was the right decision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really good. So during your PhD, you did a synthetic biology,
Yeah.
and now you're doing a postdoc. You're
Yeah.
doing the same thing or different?
Well, the thing is, during my PhD, I developed the synthetic circuits, which are similar to the electronic circuits, but are based on the DNA that we use for programmable control of gene expression. So during my postdoc, what I'm doing now, we are applying the same technology to program plants for space.
Mm-hmm. Okay. If I ask for details, can
Yeah.
you explain that?
Yeah,
how
sure.
It works? Yeah.
Yeah, so the way it works, let's say in the electronic circuits, when you have the input and then there is no, when there is input, so we call it as 1, then the output is 0, so that is like a NOT gate.
Mm-hmm.
Similar in the biological system, so when you have a promoter that drives the expression of a gene, so the gene is switched on all the time. So it is similar like the NOT gate. So when there is an input in the form of a repressor,
Mm-hmm.
which occupies this promoter, and then the gene is switched off. So when you have input 1, the output is 0. So that is the same concept that we are using to engineer plants for customizable fates and behaviors.
Oh, great. So Adil, do you have any story back when you were doing this work that leads to some discovery which you are really proud of?
Yes, there is. In the beginning, as I mentioned, I had no idea of the research area because my background was that I had done some cloning. It was a bit different. So when I started, there was not much known in plants about these synthetic circuits or gene repression. Not many people has done work in this area. And at that time, when I started my PhD, this was also quite a new area in the lab, so I had to establish everything from scratch. So honestly, it took me like 3 years. So for 3 years, continuously, including most of the weekends, I was working to optimize the systems because we had like two variables there. One was whether we could understand whether the system is working, and then we also needed to have like a robust assay, because plants, when you are working with plants, even the simple model organism Arabidopsis, it takes like 6 to 8 months to get like the transgenic line. So imagine if you start working with it, and after 8 months you get to know, okay, now I need to go back and change this thing. So that takes ages. So we needed like a robust system which is like quite high throughput, so you can get your results like, let's say, within a day. So that's why I started working on the Arabidopsis protoplast system as an assay for screening synthetic gene circuits. And as you know, that the protoplast, sometimes the data is like quite variable, is not reproducible, but we did not want that, and that was our only option. So when I started working on this, the problem I was facing exactly the same, that our data was not reproducible. And I spent like almost 3 years, and that was, we were thinking maybe we can change the directions of the project, because I was a PhD student. I spent like 3 years just on the optimization, and at the end of the day I had to graduate anyway. So that was one day, and it was weekend. I got to the lab in the morning. I started doing, I thought, okay, I can go like with the plate-based method. So I spent the whole day to isolate the protoplasts and transfect them. And then when I came to the very last point, when I had transfected the protoplast, so I needed to centrifuge it. So there was a time when I came to know that there was some problem with the centrifuge. So I couldn't proceed. So I thought I can just get rid of the plate, but I was so hungry that I went to eat something. And that was the time, the magic happened. When I came back, the cells there were like sitting down at the bottom due to gravity. And I thought, okay, I don't need any centrifugation. So what I could do is get rid of the supernatant solution, and that should work. The next day, when I checked the results, they were like quite beautiful. And I thought maybe, and also my boss, he couldn't believe, because we were trying for like the past 3 years, that maybe it is just a coincidence. And then I repeated it like over 10 times, from randomizing the samples, taking different batches of plants, doing it on different days, trying different DNA molecules to see whether these are reproducible, and it worked. So I'm coming to the same point, that the thing is that if you have some dreams, if you want to pursue them, and if you try your best, so you can achieve your goals.
Yeah, that's right. Because if I was there, I should not compare with you, but it is really frustrating when things are not working, when you are following each steps as it is written, or you assume it's will work, but suddenly that accident that you said, like, I just wanted to leave that sample, go back and eat something, and came back and you saw that protoplasts are working. That's like, motivation for even you spend a lot of time in the lab. It's like you got that gift. Like you got your experiment is working like that.
Exactly. The thing is, it is all about those little celebrations, right? You are in the lab, nobody is around you. You got your desired results, and then you say, it started working. So that feeling.
So what was your reaction when you got this data?
Well, I can't explain that in words. In fact, I cried at that time, because I had spent 3 years on it, and that was before getting into this field. I had actually started my PhD because I had applied in 2 different universities. So the first one was I had done my master's there, and then because I was an internal student, I came to know about my scholarship. I started, and the place where I am now, I had applied there, and because the outcome of the scholarship was after a couple of months. So my first place where I had started my PhD, there those were ongoing projects, and I thought my thesis would be by publication and everything would be quite super easy.
Yeah.
But here, everything was challenging. So in all those 3 years, sometimes I used to think whether I made the right choice, whether I quit my first PhD and came here. So at that time, I was frustrated, no doubt. But when things were optimized, and if I take a look back, I said, that was the right choice. But all this struggle and everything. So if somebody asks me, I say never give up.
Yeah.
Just try your best, so your time will come.
So here comes a tips and trick. I don't think so. Research is as easy as we think. When you're joining PhD or postdoc, you have a project, but as you plan, it never goes that way. So in that sense, also how you manage if you get setbacks, like you said, you are trying that experiment for multiple 3 years or something. So what kind of strategy now you think you should have taken at that time to manage those things?
I think because if you are going to try something new and something novel, so of course that will take time. But I think if, let's say, the best thing would be if you have a student. So I think one of the projects should be quite ambitious. And then there should be a side project which could be easily achievable. So I think that would be the best strategy, because if they are getting some results from it, they will be motivated. They have something on the side. And the ambitious project, they could just focus on it. But there could be some of the people that I have seen when they are working like this. So sometimes their side project become their main priority because they give up on that ambitious project and they say, okay, maybe it is not working. But what if they are just nearly there and they are about to achieve this goal?
Yeah, I see here, if you just think that on that day, you just discarded that protoplast in the bin, not kept on the bench.
Yep.
And you just stopped that work over there, the work you got from that, research was going to in the vein. But on that day, you didn't, stop thinking about your experiment and you got that data. I think that is where you said, who knows that you're just a few steps away from your goal.
Yep, exactly.
So keep each steps forward. Don't stop it. Don't go back. Just instead move slowly. Doesn't matter how you're doing, but you achieve that one in the end. So that you say, I've invested 5 years, 4 years, doesn't matter.
Yep.
What is you got is the end product. And the other thing you said, have a B, plan B or backup something. When you're working on something new in the field, make a side project, which will be a backup for your research. You never know, the side project become a main project and it's going to give you something else. But in the same time, so what happened as a postdoc when you're working in any lab, either your supervisor will give multiple projects. So if you're jumping from one project to another, the side effect is that you cannot focus any one of those.
Yeah, I agree.
So it happened with you, or just you focus only a priority, these 2 projects are my priorities and I won't be focusing on, because sometimes as a postdoc we cannot say no. It's happen you have a responsibility to take this forward and all. How do you do that, Vince?
Well, the thing is that becomes quite challenging. So being a postdoc, you are not only working on your own project, you are also involved in the PhD student supervision. So their problems are your problems, and then you have your own problems. So it becomes quite challenging. So I think what I do in that thing, so then I divide my time in a way. So like I mean, things which needs most, like I mean, are the high priority in terms of like I mean needs to be addressed like quite quickly. So I spend more time on them, not leaving behind the other projects. But it becomes like I mean you have to spend more than 9 to 5 time, which never happens in the research.
Yeah.
On the paper it is 9 to 5, but the reality is you have to spend more time. So I have seen, like I mean, staying until very late.
Yeah, so you say like time management now because
Yeah.
research is not about like 9 to 5
Yeah.
or Monday to Friday.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to go in weekend also.
Yeah.
So how do you manage this your work-life balance? Because this is very crucial.
That's a very tough question, and I may not have the best answer for it because work-life balance is very important. We all understand it, but we are very bad at it.
Yeah, that's
to
right.
be honest. Yeah, so I mean, the thing is, one of the things that I have done, I don't live very far from the labs. It's just like a walking distance, like 4 or 5 minutes walking distance. So
Yeah.
that's how, like, I mean, it helps me the traveling time, getting into the
Same.
lab, and then
Yeah.
so somehow, like, I mean, I could manage that time for myself. So yeah,
That looks good.
like so for example, sometimes when I have like an experiment going on and there is like an incubation time that I have to wait for like 1 hour or 2 hours, so I can take that time out and then come back. See
Yeah.
my point? So I can do like some other related things in those ones.
Yeah, I feel like if you plan your work accordingly, like sometimes you're incubating, sometimes what happens is that it's a lunchtime, it's like a 12 o'clock to 1. You don't need have to go at that time. So at that time, maybe you're keeping 20 minutes for like experiment, your incubation you're keeping.
Yeah.
So you manage that way so that you're not working. But sometimes spending too much time, do you think like from 9 to 7 or 9, like a 12 hours in the lab, reduces your efficiency work with the time rather than I would say 9 to 5 it will be you are more efficient or vice versa. What do you think?
I truly agree. Like I mean, the thing is, if you are working like
Then-
7 days, 6 days a week, that is not good. Like I mean, you are pushing yourself behind.
Yeah.
Beyond your body limits. And I think even if you spend like 5 days working in those normal working days, maybe let's say instead of staying in the lab, instead of until 5, you can stay there until 7, but just for 5 days. I think then you will be more efficient. If you take like some time off for yourself, that is very important. We don't realize it until we get to that point, like when you are super exhausted.
Yeah.
So, because at the end of the day, your net efficiency matters. Working for extended hours over a extended period of time is not good for your health.
For the long term.
Yeah.
For the long term it may be negative fact because
I mean the thing is you are using your mind continuously. So if you are exhausted, your sleep is not complete. So how can you come up with like solutions? How you can come up with like the new ideas? So if you're not in the lab, what do you like to do? How do you spend your weekends? Because I mean, again, like I'll come to the same point. So I have like I'm quite social, so at least I have hello hi with everyone. So we are a group of like 14, 15 people. We get together.
Okay.
Then we do some barbecue, cook together.
Wow.
Spend our time there. So that time, that like I mean gives me strength because we are not talking about science or anything. But I mean the thing is, all that time that we spend on cooking or preparing the food, that is there. But at the end of the day, we are researchers, so then we sit together to start eating.
Yeah.
So somehow one way or the other way we start these discussions. But again, I mean that is in a very lighter mood. So that's how like I mean I spend my personal time with the friends or with the family. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very important because sometimes if you don't have science to do, you need something to do with. Some people spend their time just walking around or just visiting places. So do you think like if you're coming to science and you're coming to different country, a different culture, like I came to UK, it was not like being in India
Yep.
because India is more like family oriented, friend oriented culture. When you come here, like it's like more isolated, socially isolated. You don't feel sometimes you belong here. So what kind of advice you wanna give like people if they are coming to another country, how they should exist? Because everybody's different. Somebody is extrovert, introvert, but it's like as a human we live in a society, right?
Yep.
We can't live alone, and you have to feel like you belong in that society,
Yeah.
in that environment.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, no doubt it is hard when you leave your family behind, your culture, and of course, our culture is completely different to here because here people are more like adapted to being alone or independent, where we have the family there. So let's say if I'm away from home, somebody will be at home taking care of something,
Yeah, that's
which is not the case here. I would advise, because I would advise, like, I mean, anyone coming to these countries, so they can be, like, I mean, try to be independent. Point one, like, I mean, try to do everything yourself. And then the other thing is try to talk to people and try to interact with them, sit with them, because otherwise it becomes hard. So those would be the things, like, I mean, try to be independent in doing your own things.
Yeah.
And then also don't hesitate to talk to anyone in case whether you are having problem with something, because people are friendly, they help. Yeah.
Most of the time people think like if I talk to someone maybe they were not interested, because everyone when you walk in the street, even in the in a department, they are like a silent. You just feel like if I talk to them maybe they are not interested, but it's the fear that if I start it doesn't go that way, then it becomes like no, I will be ashamed of something. So and once you start talking, like our conversation also, I feel like when we started it was just like a hi and hello.
Yep.
And rest thing started with the stories.
Exactly.
So you have to start a story, listen, tell, and conversation goes like a never ending. And it
Exactly.
feels like I know that guy from like a 10 years.
Yep.
So I think communication is one of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the thing is, we met like 1.5 hours ago.
Yeah.
And then I leave.
We are having lunch and suddenly like, okay, Adil, can you come to my podcast? And I was like, because you had a story which I felt like I'm hearing that one, but if what happened, somebody is hearing this story and they are going through a lot, sometimes we go through a lot. Because one of my friend, when I was talking to him, he said like he did a PhD, he's applying for a postdoc, and he said like I'm not getting any job. And it's very frustrating. Getting a job means a postdoc is very tough nowadays.
Yep.
It's a very competitive, and other thing that you start questioning yourself.
Yep.
Like, am I worth it that I'm applying 10, 20 postdoc and none of them are like more successful? So sometimes we question at the PhD position like, no, I think I'm not meant for science. So do you have any suggestion for those people? Like,
Well, when you apply for something and then you don't get that position, it doesn't mean that you are not capable, right?
yeah,
And I personally believe, like, I mean, everything happens for a reason. So, like, I mean, trying again and again, like, never giving up. Maybe because something better is destined for you. I personally believe like this way. So if you apply for a position, you don't get it, doesn't mean, like, I mean, you have the problem. Maybe
something good is
some
in the
good
future
is, exactly,
for you.
is waiting for you and is coming for you.
Yeah, I really inspired by this thing, and that's make me keep moving, because so many times it happened. Like when I applied for Europe Engine Visa and all, and there was a conference, I couldn't go. So one thing is like my lab mates are there, they're enjoying. I should sit and just cry. Oh, why I'm not there? But on that week, I realized I should focus that energy into some research.
Yeah.
I went back to lab and started working something over there. And that time I found something. I was talking to the photo bodies and all that data came from that week where I couldn't go to France for the conference. So I feel like you say, something you have to modulate your energy somewhere in a positive way. that you say like, if it is not for you, then that is not for you. It's something good is for you, somewhere waiting for you. So that keeps you motivating and go ahead with that one.
Yeah.
If I ask the next one, is that what are your future ambitions?
My ambition is, my goal is to do science, stay in science, and maybe one day have my own lab.
Wow.
Where I can facilitate next generation, train them, whatever I have learned, and then
Lead
just
yeah, that's good. Other last question I would say.
Sure.
What does it mean by research culture to you?
Well, to me, the research culture should be a culture where, knowledge is being shared, where you can help people. You are very friendly, and you promote each other. It doesn't matter where you come from, doesn't matter where you belong to, but you are there. There should be like a family culture where people support one another.
Yeah.
I personally believe in this thing, not only in the lab. If somebody asks me or approach me, seek guidance for the scholarships, or getting, for example, I'm in Australia, getting to Australia. So whatever knowledge I have, I just share it without hesitation.
Yeah, that's the way, because somehow we have lost that connection now. If you see, the human civilization is like communicating with each other, sharing the resources with, and celebrate together.
Yeah.
Somehow we forget that one, and we say like, okay, we are working, my work is my work, I don't want to share with anyone.
Yeah.
In the same side, we are limiting that knowledge to go to the next one, and we are delaying the discoveries. So sometimes like communication and making collaboration is like you are working for the science together. Not only one person can solve everything.
No.
So you have to either collaborate with communicate in this conference or somewhere. So communication matters a lot in science, rather than being in the lab and not communicating what you're doing. And when you write a paper, I feel like when you write a paper, you write the experiments, right? You don't write the stories behind that. I ask you today, what's the story? And you say like, that is the story, but you cannot write that in the paper. Like I go through that. But these stories inspires you, keeps you smile on your face. When you discuss this thing 100 times, you always smile, because this was the struggle, and this is the success that I got from
that people don't see, in these scientific papers.
And this podcast is only about those things. Talk about those things, those small stories that you got a discoveries. Like most of the accidentally, discovery, big scientists they discovered, these are all accidental.
All accidents. Yes.
And people say sometimes failure, like in the science, we don't appreciate the failure first thing. Sometimes it's very hard for a person who's joined the postdoc or PhD. They go through a lot of negative data. And they don't get results at that time. And somehow there's a pressure from the community, or say per se from the boss, or in the institute, that you have to publish something. But sometimes publication matters, I know, but it's still like you have to figure it out by yourself. Nobody's coming to figure out what exactly happening.
No.
So we don't discuss about the failure. We don't appreciate that one. But those failures are the sometimes basic for the discovery that you share today with us, and that was really inspiring.
Exactly. You learn from it, right? So if I take a look, let's say if I had studied in my previous institute for my PhD, that would be like spoon feeding. And then running projects, I will publish papers, blah blah blah. I would not have learned like a single thing. That's why we learn from these values. So there are like hidden messages there, and that's how you become an expert. If somebody has a problem, so then you can say, oh I had these things, I can help you with it. But unfortunately that is not the case most of the time. People they just try to isolate themselves and not help.
These were the positive things they got, not the negative things. What happened, they can learn. It happened in science sometimes. I say some project didn't work, but those negative data we cannot publish anywhere. And the same thing somebody is doing, same mistake somebody is doing, and we are not improving those things. But sharing this one also, sometime maybe we are contributing, focus on other things, so that everybody is moving forward, rather than we are just pulling each other but not sharing these negative things. So Adil, let's talk about Australia. How is it?
Australia is a great country.
Mhm.
People are quite friendly.
Okay.
The weather and environment is great. The only thing is it is quite isolated from the world, quite
yeah.
far.
Yeah, somebody said like today, "Hey, you are coming from Australia, all the way Australia." I said, "Yeah, Australia." Yeah, yeah, but one thing you see, like all world is a family kind of
Yeah.
thing, right? So it doesn't matter where you live.
Yeah,
When you're coming to like this kind of scientific communication and all those things, it's like feels like we belong to that. This is a one family.
Yeah.
We are all like a member of those.
exactly.
Yeah, great. So that was Adil Khan from Australia, and we will be coming back to the next episode next week on Monday. Thank you so much for joining today. Follow for more such episode, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye. Take care.